welcome to another episode of Asexualise, my asexual life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual. I share my own asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. If you are already subscribed, hit that bell icon so you get notified of every time I go live like now or post a new video. So today is Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month. We are on day 15 in the UK. We just entered the 16th, but USA and other countries, we're still on the 15th, and this is the 15th day. This is my third attempt of going live, by the way. So we're going to crack on with tonight's show and this, or today, wherever you are. And this show today is all about how asexuals discovered they're asexual. And as always, for our Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month, I'm reading from the Asexual Perspectives book, which celebrates our diversity across the asexual spectrum, our differences within it, and actually shows you what asexuality is all about in real life asexual context. And it basically goes through all the questions you think about, need an answer to, when you just discover an asexuality or want more information, want to know more about the asexual spectrum, all topics to discuss within regards to love, life, and sex. So, Nikki's story is on page 79 of the book, people, if you got the printed edition. How did you discover you are asexual? Looking around at other people my age and the media in general, it was easy for me to judge myself for not having the same interest in sex as my peers. The media, movies, books, anything really, put so much emphasis on how important sex was to growing up and finding out who you were. And I just never felt the need for that. For a long time, I thought something was wrong with me because of that, like I was defective or immature for not wanting to have sex. It wasn't until I started coming across the term asexual in blogs online that I realised there were other people like me and that it wasn't something I should feel bad about. I started reading up on asexuality and realised the term applied to me. So that's Nikki's story. But we're going to rock and roll on to Victoria, page 103 of the printed edition of the book. So how did Victoria discover they are asexual? I had recently been part of a conversation in which everyone described their sex life, who they found hot, and since when they had been sexually active. I felt so alien during that conversation that I felt horrible all day. All the feelings I had stored up about being different, childish or weird started resurfacing. It got so bad that I got drunk and poured my heart out to a friend and basically asked what the hell was wrong with me. She suggested I might be demisexual. During this conversation, I heard the word asexual and asexual spectrum for the first time. The amount of relief I felt after this conversation is indescribable. After that conversation, I spent about 2 to 3 weeks researching asexuality and trying to figure out where I fall in the asexual spectrum. Ironically, it was after reading a demisexual's account of what sexual attraction felt like, I began to identify as fully asexual. So let me explain in case you didn't know. A demisexual is someone who can't and doesn't experience any sexual attraction unless a deep emotional bond has been formed. Usually it has to be maintained and reciprocated as well. In terms of romance, if you're looking to a counterpart of romance to that, it would be the demi-romantic, who doesn't experience any sexual attraction, is on the aromantic spectrum and cannot experience romantic attraction unless and until a deep emotional bond has been formed. From my experience of demi-romantics, they kind of do still carry those feelings on for the same person for a long time, and it takes them a while to get over it. So yeah, I think it's hard if you do meet someone, you do end up loving them, and then, you end up not being suitable, can't be with the person. If you fall into a category that's harder to experience sexual attraction or romantic attraction with in the first place, it's kind of like even rarer. It's kind of like you're 1% of the 1%, if you know what I mean. So I think it is harder in that way. This person mentioned a full asexual. So obviously demisexuals are usually somewhere in between asexual and sexual. They're demi, like half, right? And so they do experience sexual attraction only if and when a deep emotional connection has been made and sustained, reciprocated usually. And so for those purposes, for those situations, they aren't fully asexual in the sense they could become sexually attracted to someone. And asexuality is the lack of sexual attraction. So if you look at asexuality on a scale of kind of purity, full asexuals, they wouldn't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever, going all the way up through to the more sexual end of the asexual spectrum and more towards the sexual spectrum, right? So someone who doesn't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever is usually known as a what we call a pure asexual, someone who doesn't experience any bit of sexual attraction whatsoever, So when they say a full asexual, they discovered that, they weren't demisexual, that they were in fact a full asexual, meaning they don't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever. And I do have to agree with Victoria. When you find out there's a community of people like you, when I discovered the asexual community, I was that elated and relieved. I thought, oh my God, it was like literally opening a Christmas present, the best Christmas present you could ever have had in your life. And you're like, my God, there's other people like me in the world. And I honestly thought I was the only one who didn't want or need sex. And it's like, oh my God, there's other people. I felt so relieved, so relieved. So yeah, I know that feeling well. Adelaide story. How did you discover you're asexual? When I was in college, I finally added the word asexual to my vocabulary. I was talking to a friend, and to this day, I cannot remember what we were talking about. When she stopped and asked the question, have you ever considered you might be asexual? Of course, then I went home and Googled asexuality and found that finally I had a label that fitted. So some people like labels and like to be able to identify themselves with a label, and other people don't. I find the label useful for me. So my full asexual identity is a heteromantic, hyper-romantic, grade A, asexual, younger cougar who doesn't like sex, just kissing. So I'm into really younger guys and guys that are in their early to mid-20s. That's the age group I feel most comfortable around. That's the age group I relate to the most because my lifestyle's very similar. My mindset and outlook's usually similar in some ways, lifestyle particularly. I usually like going out clubbing. I can't do that at the moment because obviously I'm recovering from a broken ankle, but I just love being in the club I go to, is foreign club usually. And obviously it was in the lockdown meant it's been closed for ages, months. Well, it's been closed since last March, my favourite club. As far as I know, in terms of being a club, it's a pub in the day. So yeah, it's been like a year and quite a few months of being a club. It's a pub in the day. So yeah, it's been like a year and quite a few months now, because we're in July 2021. It was March 2020 when I went there last. So I think actually it was open till April, but I didn't go there till, last time I was there is March last year. So, it's been quite a long time. But when I'm there, I'm around guys who are in their early to mid-20s usually, and that just feels like my age group, kind of like where my soul is. So I think in life, you've got to follow your soul, got to follow your intuition, and you've got to do what feels good for you and what feels at peace. And I like dancing as well because it's good exercise. But so I'm looking very forward to getting back to that eventually once my ankle's healed. But it's really amazing to discover you are asexual and discover other people like you. So, and obviously when I go to the club, they're not asexual, but they do have LGBT people there in my club. They have lesbians and gays who kiss openly on the dance floor and stuff like that. So it's LGBT plus. I'm basically the plus friendly. Right. So Zoe's story. How did Zoe discover they're asexual? So in my 40s, so this is very important. Not everyone discovers they're asexual early on in their life. In my 40s, I can't remember my exact age, I came across an article in the newspaper. The first word of the headline read asexuality. The moment I read that word, I knew, finally, a word to verbalise what was my normal. I read that article and everything clicked into place. I was elated. The article also mentioned Avon's website. Unfortunately, I didn't get an internet connection until many years later. Financial restrictions, so I couldn't check it out at the time. I didn't care. I didn't dare use someone else's computer. Even when I did eventually get the internet, I initially only visited Avon as a guest, still too afraid to step out of the shadows and into asexuality, afraid of rejection, ridicule, etc. I remember when I first joined the asexuality.com website, a dating site for asexuals, I remember I felt so scared. I was like, oh my God, because I'd given up all hope of ever being able to find a partner. I decided, because I don't like sex, and I was told by a counsellor that I would have to have sex in order to keep a good guy, and that's when I was devastated. And I went home and googled I love kissing but not sex, and then I found asexuality.org. So everything happens for a reason, but it was just very traumatic, like hearing some person say that I was going to have to do something I didn't want to do in order to keep someone who's good. But it's like, how can they be good for me if I've got to do something that I don't enjoy doing, that's bad for me, because it feels horrible to me. So that was a difficult time. But yeah, once you find out who you truly are and you live into that reality and love yourself for who you are, I think life just gets much better. I'm so happy that I found out I was asexual, that I am asexual. I mean, it's one of the best things to ever happen to me in my life. My whole life and childhood in that way just makes sense to me. The fact I used to have so much romance going on in my mind and love kissing but not doing any sexual touching. My mind didn't think about sex at all. I just used to think about romance and kissing, and that was like my dream relationship at the time. So I think it's very important at whatever age you discover you're asexual, it's all valid. Like sometimes you can think, oh, I wasted my life not knowing who I was, and I understand that, but at the end of the day, everything happens in divine timing usually, and it happens when it's meant to happen. Like for me personally, if I'd known sex is meant to hurt, which I didn't know because I didn't even think about that, when I was asked to do, or rather pressurized to do sex for the first time ever, if I'd have known that information, I probably wouldn't have gone through with it. But I am glad for me that I tried sex. Like I didn't. I mean, I'm personally sex repulsed for me these days, but I don't hate sex as a for other people, and at the time with my long-term ex of 8.5 years, I didn't hate it because I did consensually with him and he was good at that. It's just I'd rather have been doing other things. It's not really my thing, and these days I can't even think about doing that very easily with a guy, like because I'm writing the Asexual Guide to Sex book for asexuals that are interested in trying it and come to me and said that. And for people who are just curious to know what it feels like to have sex if you're asexual, even though they don't want to ever try it again themselves, it's kind of weird doing the Asexual Guide to Sex book because I'm having to go back and relive those memories of what it was like to have sex and what I did during that time, because I've got to use my experiences to help readers, right? And what did I do in that time? But I also put a lot of stuff into the book of stuff that I didn't know back then, stuff that would have really helped me to stay more safe and to think about what I'm doing more and to create greater awareness of what the situation actually is in reality, rather than the fictitious, oh, sex is so great fantasy that everyone portrays, So I'm really looking forward to carrying on that book. I didn't manage to do any of that today so far, but it's really good and interesting. If it helps to save someone's life, stop some sexual abuse or anything like that, I'm really happy that that's why I want it to be known as a safe sex book. So I've still got more information to add to that, but I really love doing that book, writing that book. So Molly, how do you identify, how did you discover you're asexual? Sorry. I had asexual friends, and when I told them I never felt sexual attraction, they told me I might be asexual. So this person actually had asexual friends, which is quite rare to say the least. Right, Katie, how did they discover they're asexual? I had a boyfriend at the time and our relationship was getting to a point where it's becoming more physical. He could probably sense my aversion. So one day he broached the topic. We had a very open discussion where I told him that I wasn't sure I could go any further. It was he who actually brought up the term asexual, which I had never heard of before. As soon as I started doing the research, I realised it explained exactly how I felt. And again, I think that's what's so important, is when you discover asexuality, you just really click with it. And it's like, my God, it's just incredible. It's like, finally, someone who understands me. Finally, I've got a sense of place in the world. Finally, I can just sort of rest. But I was saying earlier about asexuality.com, like when I was on there, I was so nervous. And I just tentatively put out, hi, I'm Sandra, I'm asexual, and I'm happy being single. Thanks. That was about it. Now on asexuality.com, I've got like a whole essay of the type of guy I'm looking for. I just leave it running because, you know, I haven't met the right guy since 2014, and I'm kind of like, okay, I'm just going to focus on my career now because I thought a guy I met recently was the right guy and he clearly wasn't. So yeah, I just focus on the career and myself. I'm doing a lot of mindset work at the moment. I've decided to go back and do some counselling / therapy because I believe you can help other people better if you help yourself. So I like working on myself. Haven't had any counselling since that person told me I'd have to have sex in order to keep a good guy, which is how I discovered I'm asexual. I'm going back to the same place that I had that bad experience, but it should be phone calls instead. But I've told them I do not want that person ever again. I really don't. Like, they were so bad. So, and they asked me, I had my assessment, well, I was going to say today, but it's yesterday now, for therapy, and because I want to do some trauma therapy, I think it's important for me to do that. And the person was like, what sexual orientation are you? Because it doesn't say. And I said, well, I did put other, asexual, because I'm asexual. And I told her that asexual is a lack of sexual attraction. And I have been helping asexuals for over 5.5 years on my YouTube channel. And I'm writing my second book for asexuals. And so she said, oh, that's really good. And I said, I really enjoy helping asexuals. I really love it. It makes me really happy. And at peace with my soul writing the book as well. So yeah, that went well because I didn't know what her reaction was going to be. But if I'm going to see a therapist, I don't know if I'm actually going to see her as a final one because she's doing the assessment. But if I'm going to see one, I'd rather see someone who actually appreciates asexuality and what I do, not someone who decides to invalidate me or tell me to go and basically have sex with guys. Otherwise, they won't have me because I'm grapples. Excuse my language. You know, it's really bad. You know, you are valuable with or without having sex. You know, you at worse should not be put on whether you have sex or not. You know, and so there are a few sexuals in the world that value the person more than they value sex, and so they're willing to go without sex in order to be with the person. That's few and far between. But you have to realize that some people have different needs in relationships to us. And it doesn't mean to say we're not valuable or worthy of love. It just means to say that we're not going to get it from that person, you know, but we're still worthy of love. It's still good to self-love and be in love with yourself always. Very important. Thylacine. How did they discover they're asexual? Asexuality was never discussed when I was a kid. So we pretty much never knew it existed. We just knew growing up that most people were like normal and some were like gay. This was a long time ago when people didn't dare to admit to being different. When I was around 12 to 13 or 14, I noticed other girls suddenly going crazy about boys. Then all of a sudden, jealousy crap, friendships fell apart, all kinds of stuff going on. I didn't know what was wrong with people. Time went on, girls got into trouble, they had to get married, I went to college, I got jobs, people in the workplace all hooking up, having affairs, all sorts of nonsense, still acting jealous and competitive, acting like teenage kids when they're in their 30s. Sheesh. Anyway, I still could not figure out what was wrong with people. I thought everyone around me was crazy. Finally, I read an article in the newspaper, an actual newspaper in print. That was before everyone is online 24/7. About asexuality, I said to myself, oh, that's it. That's what's wrong with everyone. They all have a sex drive and I don't. And I think that's a really good attitude, you know, like not blame yourself for having anything wrong with you or being defective or broken, but actually knowing that it's not you is the problem. It's just the rest of the world that doesn't understand that some people just don't experience sexual attraction and we're different, and that's okay to be different. You know, your difference is your beauty. And this person, Marnie, they discovered they're asexual because my husband showed me a documentary about being asexual, said Marnie. So that's really interesting. The husband actually showed her. Right. Andy Pease. This is a final one. Andy Pease. How did you discover you are asexual? So there's one moment that's always stuck with me. It really made me look at my life and how it differed from others. It's funny because I'm sure that for my friends, it was such a throwaway moment. We were hanging out at our 2-bedroom apartment when one roommate comes in with a poster. She unrolls it excitedly and reveals a shirtless actor, sweat slicked and smouldering into the camera. She wants to put it up in her room and wants her direct roommate's approval. That approval is obvious when her roommate bites her lip and responds breathlessly with, I'd like to climb him in a tree. I felt incredibly betrayed in that moment, watching them happily run off to their room to put it up immediately. These were people I'd never seen dating anyone ever. I think unconsciously I just gravitated to them because I thought that they were the same as me. And it was that moment I could see that they weren't. It really made me think about all the other times that people had said these kinds of things. So it wasn't just a matter of some people not being as interested in sex as they were intimacy. It was a fact that I never thought of myself in any sexual capacity. And when it was pressed upon me, I felt absolute rejection at the idea. Yeah, like I said, that I never ever thought when I was like at school or college, I never thought about sex. The only time I thought about sex was when I didn't feel about not doing it. So, for example, I actually had an Asian friend in college. Bakit was his name. I used to get on really well with him, and I guess that's probably why I got to like foreign guys, because there was 4 foreign guys in my personal assistance course after my A levels. And I did a personal assistant course for a year, and there was like 4 guys from 4 Asian guys, you know, beautiful coloured skin, really nice hair, nice guys, but particularly Bakit was, and he was like a friend, and he used to go back to his country and bring me gifts. He brought me a pen like which was golden colour once with a heart on it. And he used to phone me up and ask me how I was, but he invited me once to come over to his flat, and I knew then that he was going to expect sex. I thought that's what he was going to, and I was just so scared because I don't want to have sex, right? And so I just said no to him. But that I remember that it was going through my mind thinking he's just going to want sex. Like, I know he's my friend, but most likely he'll want sex. And so I just said no because I thought it was bad. I mean, I was attracted to him, but he had some facial hair, so I get put off by facial hair. He had a mustache, and he was like really, really obsessed with the gym to the point where it kind of took over his life. And so, you know, I didn't think that was too great because I don't think it's good for anyone to be obsessed as such. But I know it's good for your body in general, as long as you don't, like I say, I think things in moderation are good. Like, I think some people get addictive to stuff. So yeah, it was very interesting. But yes, I really liked him. He bought me a tape back from his country because there was cassette tapes back in them days. Oh my God, it makes me sound really old and I'm not young. But there was a song that I played, and it had a BB, the word Habibi, which means my love. I got to learn about a few Asian words like Ashufak Badin, Salam Alaikum, or what Alaikum Salam, those type of things. But this particular thing had a word Habibi, which meant my love in it. Oh, so sweet. The music I loved. And I think this is genuinely where I got my love of foreign guys, foreign music from. I mean, he's married now with kids in, you know, Middle Eastern countries. So his whole life completely changed. He looks like, I think he was older than me at the time. He looks like about 20 years or more older than me. He looks really old. Really old. Well, he probably looks more like 30 or 40 years older than me because a lot of the time I look a lot younger. So yeah, that was weird. I managed to get hold of him on LinkedIn, but it was nice to just know he's still alive and what happened to him, you know. But yeah, it's just crazy, isn't it? But I always remember that moment when he said that to me, and I thought I'd really like to see you as a friend, but I just know you're going to want sex from me, and I wasn't comfortable with that idea or even going there to find out if that's what you really did want. I just thought it's too risky. I don't want that. So I've always been not interested in sex, you know. I had a guy who I knew his mum, and I went to this party, which was like an engagement party. I think, was it a wedding? I don't know if it was a wedding reception or engagement party, but anyway. And then I got to be his girlfriend. And then the next time I saw him, I just knew it wasn't right because he started asking me about going away to France with him. And didn't know, I knew his mum, but I didn't know him very well at all. I knew of him from a friend because I was friend to him because I was with someone who knew him, I think, before, if I remember. This is going back ages now, years ago. So it's hard for me to remember. I've kind of blocked a lot of that out. But anyway, I decided, you know, when he said about going away, I thought, God, you're gonna, you know, to have sex. I'm just not that type of girl. I think I might have even said I'm not that type of girl, you know. And anyway, to cut a long story short, he kissed me, and it was like a lizard kissing me. And I just knew that I was supposed to be his friend, never ever supposed to be his girlfriend. It just really was gross to me. You know, I just didn't like it at all. And so, yeah, So I think when you kiss someone, you can actually tell if you're just meant to be a friend with them or not. Sometimes you can just tell straight away. Other times you could get used to them kissing you. Especially I like to train guys and I like to be kissed. And then other guys you just know from a kiss, like, oh yeah, this could be a really potential great relationship just based on a kiss. So I know that might sound funny or weird, or maybe it sounds superficial to you if you're not into kissing, but it's very important. Like, intimacy is very important, and kissing for me is my ultimate intimacy. And if I feel I'm kissing someone who just feels like he should be my friend, then he should just be my friend, you know. But yeah, kind of going to the point of discovering you're asexual, you know, like, it's just the best feeling in the world, you know. Like, I found it out because I went to see a counsellor, and I wasn't even meant to see that counsellor. I wasn't meant to see them, but I got a phone call out of blue saying I've been on the waiting list and now I'm going to see someone. And I decided to go through it anyway because I believe everything happens for reasons, fate steps in. But if I didn't go and get the harsh treatment from her, I would never have provoked me into going online, typing in "I love kissing but not sex" and lead me to asexuality. So if I'd decided in that moment to say no to that appointment, I honestly didn't know, because the previous counsellor said I didn't need any more counselling, that I could answer all the answers myself, and that was it. And that was at least 8 months prior to that. And so the phone was phoning me out the blue, go, "Oh, you've been on a waiting list to see someone. We've got someone available now." And I spoke to a person on the phone, and they said I'm good on the phone, but obviously when I saw them in person, they weren't good. They made my fears worse by basically saying that I can't experience any love or ever be loved without sex. And it's like, if you're asexual, even if you don't know you're asexual, that's the worst thing you can have someone say to you, because it's like your fears of never being loved without sexual intercourse just all come true at once and pile in on you, and you're like, I really came here to get some help, not to make the situation worse. That's why I love doing this show, to just let people know you don't have to have sex in order to be loved. You shouldn't value your worth by sex, and no one should value people's worth in a relationship by the amount of sexuals they're not having or not having. It's ridiculous. It's a very, very bad conditioning that society has got into, and people seem to accept it. And it seems to be the standard within traditional dating and relationships coaching, which I'm obviously an asexual dating relationships coach. So, you know, it's kind of crazy. But I'm glad that I took the phone call. I'm glad that even though it's a really horrible experience being with that counsellor, it provoked me into going home, Googling "I love kissing and not sex." And here I am now, over 5.5 years later. In October, I've been on this channel for 6 years helping asexuals. So I'm really proud of that, you know. I'm really proud of all the views the channel's got. I'm really proud of all the subs this channel's got. I'm really proud of every single person that supports me here and writes me beautiful messages about how much they appreciate what I do. And I really love all of you to bits. You know, I love being part of my YouTube family here. I would do it forever. I just love it so much. There are some people that are YouTubers that talk about asexuality, and after a while they just give up and that's it. But I've missed you so much when I wasn't YouTubing, when I had to have a break because YouTube cut me off, but I could still upload videos from my phone, luckily. But yeah, so I personally loved the fact to discover that I'm asexual. How I discovered it was very fate, really, I believe. Yeah. And I believe all your dreams can come true. So if you're sat there thinking now you're asexual and you don't have asexual friends, please go on Facebook, connect with people in groups, connect with people on asexual forums, reach out, you know, be on this channel, subscribe to this channel, reach out to people in comments, go on other people's channels, go in other people's groups, you know, especially ones that resonate with you. Obviously, don't end up being in a group where it just is completely different to your ideology, because that's going to rub you up the wrong way. You know, that not all asexual groups are for everyone, right? So, for example, if you are not a grey asexual, you wouldn't want to usually be in a grey asexual group unless you've got grey areas, you know. And in some asexual groups, they have sexuals in there. It's not all asexuals. So you just got to be aware of that. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to love you and leave you for now. I hope you found this video useful, helpful, insightful. If you're just discovering asexuality, please go to Amazon, type in Asexual Perspectives. It'll pretty much answer all your questions that you have at the moment about asexuality. And it's a good read, you know. It's autobiographical on my part. It's got 47 asexuals in total, including me, 46 others from all around the globe. And asexual spectrum took me a year to write this, so a lot of advice. And this is my worn copy, as you can see, because I read from it all the time. Anyway, until next time, embrace your quirky and each other. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell icon to get notified of every time I go live like now, post a new video. I love you and I'll see you soon. Take care. Lots of love. Bye. Bye.